No Other Life presents Upstaged. Time out. Isn't it great to see something starting out and knowing in your gut that it's going to go somewhere, that it's going to explode into something extraordinary for the person who created it? That's a bit of the image that I have when I think about this particular piece. In the context of the album that it was created for, it's pretty much midway in the middle of a journey through the woods, and that is both a literal woods and certainly a symbolic one as well. And in this particular case, it's getting into this clearing area in the middle of a woods where you're able to look straight up and see almost an infinite amount of layers of leaves as you eventually make your eyes get all the way to the sky. And it makes me think a bit about when I was a kid and we put up this screen house in our backyard. And my dad had a couple old army cots that were folded up in the basement or crawl space of our house for decades, I guess. And he got them out and they smelled bad, but we washed them with soap and folded them out. And soon enough, they were a very agreeable thing to lie on in this screen house. Now, one of the benefits of this particular model was that it had legs that were kind of splayed out a little bit. So it wasn't a perfect cube, but rather you could lie on one of these cots, and when you were at about knee height at that level, you'd actually be able to look straight up and actually be outside, if you will, of the confines of the ceiling of this screen house. So I was able to lie in there without the elements getting to me, the bugs and so on, but still feel when I looked straight up like I was in the middle of it all. Now, I was pretty well brought up to be afraid of everything. I think I've said that at times before. And I was. And for some funny reason, we put this screen house up way at the end of our property, which is as far as you can get from the road. I know that that was part of the fear. It was going to look like an eyesore to anyone driving or walking by. There was probably some kind of fear that it was going to be an attractive nuisance, and we'd wake up in the morning and find a bear sleeping out there. I don't know. That was the life that we kind of lived. That was constant anxiety, constant fear of everything. And I'm still getting over it. That's the way that it is. But what are you going to do about it? Anyway, this was way out there at the edge of the property. And for some reason, that didn't really faze me the way that I'm surprised that it didn't, thinking back now. And I had one or two of these cots out there and, I don't know, probably some kind of a table. And this makes me think back to a period that was either just after I graduated from high school or perhaps was going into my senior year of high school. And I spent so much time out in that screenhouse. I just loved it. And I was reading a lot at the time. That was probably, I guess, the last period, 25 years ago, that I was reading regularly. I had the movie Jurassic Park had come out very recently. And so I had read that, and then I got more into the books by the same author, Michael Crichton. And that led me into a bunch of other notable fictional authors at the time. And I just spent the day out there. And I'd say it was the last time that I thought much about reading. But honestly, it was probably the last time that I thought about relaxing, if you come down to it. And that's a shame, of course, because relaxing is an important part of the world. But it's something that comes to mind when I think of this piece, with this gigantic canopy over a forest. Now, I grew up here in New England, so the forest that I'm thinking about may look different than the one that you're thinking about, but that doesn't matter so much what it looks like. The key thing here to be aware of is that the canopy of any area of woods makes you feel comforted. It's there naturally to give you comfort from direct sunlight, to give you comfort from the pouring rain, maybe some sort of insulation from the snow and the cold, although in this area at that time of year, you're really not going to have much of a canopy. But at this particular time of year now, when I hear this piece, when I think back to my little cot looking up straight into the layers of these deciduous branches overhead, it really means something very strong to me. I'm recording this in the spring, and I just can't wait to get outside, sitting in my current day screenhouse, which, by the way, does have right angles, so that's why I thought it was important to stress these splayed out legs on the other one. You might have thought, what's he getting into that for? And that's part of the reason. It's that the current place that we spend time in the summer, you can't look straight up into the sky. But at this particular time of year, that's always on my mind, that freedom that comes to the kids of America as they leave their schoolhouse and start to think about what it is that's coming up. This episode is going to be airing right at my the time of my birthday. And I always thought that it was a pretty cool time to have a birthday. Everyone in my family has their birthday prior to summer. There are many of us in the winter, and that never sat well with me. Good thing, because it wasn't my birthday. But mine was always right around the time of thinking of school getting out, and thinking and wishing for Memorial Day weekend and the impending summer vacation. It was just a wonderful time to be alive, to be a kid. And even today, I think about the fact that everybody has something that they can expect as far as the climate and the season of their birthday. I will never be singing Christmas carols on my birthday. Some people, that goes hand in hand. I'm never going to have a snow day on my birthday. But I often will go mini golfing to celebrate my birthday some point that week. I have cookouts on my birthday. I have time at the fire pit in my yard. And I would hasten to assume that people tend to gravitate toward maybe the times of year that they feel the most special. Now, I have pretty much always said that I love the fall most of all. I did get married in the fall. I always liked the start of school, the start of church seasons, and all of that stuff that happens in the fall. And I just love the changing colors and being nestled between the summer and the winter. Now, on the other side of the calendar, being nestled between the winter and the summer, I've always felt a little different. It's the same sort of feeling, but while the daylight in one time of the year is getting longer and it's getting shorter at the other, you might still have the exact experience for a sunrise at this point, a sunset at this point. It's just that they're going in opposite directions as the month rolls on. But it feels different. There's something that comes in the spring when you're, and again, this is all in my spring here in New England. I don't know if yours is anything like this, but I just love a spring shower where just before dusk, everything gets kind of weirdly colored, greens and blues. Like you don't see that at other times of the year. I don't know why. I'm sure someone does, but the science of it doesn't matter to me. It really just doesn't. I just like what it offers. And so back to that haven of bliss there in my screenhouse as a kid, staring up into the sky. It reminded me a lot at the time of a particular Renaissance painting that I can't remember now what it was precisely, but it was the concept of staring up into the heavens. And it was layer upon layer of angels and all the different strata of angels and clouds. And it really reminded me what I was seeing there in my backyard. And one could say, oh, you were trying to escape from the real world and this and that. And of course, I probably was to some extent. But for that short time and place, that became my space. That became my haven of bliss. And I say that with a little bit of a joke to repeat that a few sentences after I first said it. But it's no less true. It really felt that way for me. And so as you listen to this piece and you start at the ground and you make your way higher and higher up into that canopy, I hope that your mind will drift to some time and some place in your past or your present, maybe even your future, that you feel comfort in that canopy that gives you comfort, warmth, protection, and kind of just enfolds you. There's a dramatic crescendo that happens throughout this piece as we make our way slowly from the bottom up until the top. It's mirrored in the course of the album by a track called Fledgling, in which a small bird is learning to fly and making her way up into the sky. And so the two are always connected in my mind. But as it stands on its own, it's pretty much a crescendo for several minutes, and I hope that you will enjoy it. In its entirety, that was the track Canopy from my album Naki's Woods. Music composed, performed, and produced by me, Rick Seaholm. You know, if you like that track, you can just keep playing that part over and over again. But if you want to hear how it fits into the full album, including how it complements the mentioned track Fledgling, you can head over to rickseaholm.com for the latest news, archives, social media, or to get your hands on any one of these tracks that you hear throughout the podcast. Upstaged and the No Other Life Project are independently conceived and managed by me, Rick Seaholm, ad-free and without interruption for all listeners, and I appreciate all your support. Please, please subscribe, leave a review, and most important, get the word out so people know that I am here. Friends, you have no other life, and it's the greatest improv session of them all. Own what you bring to the scene and share it with all whom you meet.